Welcome back to the Gentleman's Syndicate. I have my special honored guest, Nelson Thomas, with us today. And we've talked in the past. Y'all probably heard from him a little bit. But I wanted to bring him back, and he also wants to be here. This is a great platform, I think, for the things that
Oh
he's got
yeah.
to talk about. And I wanted to bring up more in detail of his nonprofit organization he started called Survivors Against Suicide. He's got a special story behind that, how he got there, and kind of give some background to what that is and how you got there. So it's been a while since we've talked, a few weeks. You've been busy, right? School, life,
School
everything.
life.
Man, I'm
Yep.
glad you're doing good. And I definitely wanted to introduce your organization and what you stand behind and kind of dive into some of that. So for those listening out there, appreciate your time. Mahalo. And so go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel. Bring some awareness to what it is that we're here doing, which is, men learning to lead men, and then how we deal with struggles and the experiences of what we as men have gone through. So without any further ado, Mr. Thomas, you used to be tech sergeant back in the day. If you don't
Hmm.
mind introducing yourself a little bit, and then kind of what got you into Survivors Against Suicide.
All right. Hello. My name is Nelson Thomas. I am the CEO of Survivors Against Suicide. Uh, I'll just jump right into it. Basically, what happened was April 17th, 2006, my mother died by suicide. Um, kind of a starting point before that, when I was a kid, I always thought about suicide. I don't know why. I don't know why it was there. It was a thought. It wasn't that I was trying to commit suicide. I just thought about it. It was just there. Um, might have had something to do with childhood heroes. Um, I was a wrestling fan back in the day, and there were quite a few wrestlers that had died by suicide. We had uh, a local lady who ran a restaurant that we went to. My mom was in love with this lady, just a wonderful person, and she died by suicide. And I remember my mom always saying, "I don't understand this. It doesn't make any sense. Why would anybody leave their family like this?" And then all of a sudden, she died by suicide. It didn't make any sense. And still to this day, there are questions that will always be there. I think she left a note saying, "Just can't deal with the lies, deceit, and madness in my head anymore." And still to this day, we're trying to figure out exactly and decipher exactly what that meant. Um, but that is literally the catalyst that started what we are today. And basically, what we are is a nonprofit. There's so many different nonprofits out there, and thank God for them that deal with suicide prevention. But we deal with the aftermath of a suicide. So what the families go through, the different things that they go through, we're there to help support and build them up. We are still in our incipient phases. We're trying to figure out exactly how we're going to do everything, but we are started. We are an official nonprofit, and we're just trying to get our foot in the door and start figuring out exactly how all this is going to go. But basically, what started us was um, mom died, and we were sitting in my childhood home, and we were getting ready to leave to go back to Minot, where I was stationed at the time. And my dad said, "How do I pay the bills?" And we were like, "Oh my gosh." I was like, "What do we do here?" And basically, we spent a week tracking down all of their bills because for 35 years, she had taken care of all the finances. Dad had no clue. The only thing that he knew about is that once a week, she gave him a $40, I don't want to say loan, but but she would give him $40, and that would be for the week, and spending money and stuff like that. And that's all he knew about. He,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. So
he had,
your mom was um, the one that managed all the
yeah,
money. And
yeah,
so after, after she did what she did, you know, he was relying on that so much, he was just kind of like stuck. And so
right,
like that's a tough position, especially because you were in the military already at that point. So
yes,
you were kind of coming back to this and then realizing, oh, you don't know this, and then all this, and then it kind of just started derailing from what it sounds like, going into, well, what else don't you know, and what else do we
right.
need to do? And so those are kind of like the catalysts that kind of 16, 17 years later, where you're at now with it, and you're thinking about your organization and what you're doing, you're kind of like, these are the things that people don't think about, right after the loss of a loved one through this unfortunate um, choice and chain of events, right?
Right. And basically, what we had to do is that we tracked everything down of all of his expenditures, his what had to be paid, where it had to be paid, and we got with the bank and explained to them, hey, this is what happened, this is what's going on. We need some assistance tracking this stuff down, and they helped us wonderfully. They really reached out and took care of us, and um, it was just one of those processes that unfortunately people have to go through when these types of tragedies happen. And go ahead.
So, well, following up with that, right, kind of going where you're going when it comes to the organization and what it is, SAS, right? um what are some of the main points that you're trying to highlight with people that are survivors afterwards? Like, so if you were to come in, right, somebody were to, commit that and doing that action, what are some of the things that you're trying to step in and fulfill for that person, for the survivor?
The number one three thing that we try to establish is that it's not their fault. 9 times out of 10, it's not the other person's fault of what the individual chose to do.
Right.
And we try to make them know that and understand that. And then, most importantly, as well, is to let them know that they're not alone. Because, unfortunately, this happens all the time. If you look at the staggering numbers, I believe, if I've gotten it correctly, it's 47,000 people in the United States committed suicide last year.
It's a big number. That's a big
Yeah.
number. And
So
so
47,000.
you're,
That's,
yeah.
yeah.
So you're using your experiences and your team, y'all's experience with the aftermath after this unfortunate event,
Right.
to essentially, corral around the family members to be that voice of experience. Honestly, the voice of experience of knowing what it's like, because you unfortunately have had to go through that, and then being able to give them some encouraging I don't know, life advice, support, to really let them know, like you just said, they're not alone. And like you said, I don't know I don't know of any other organization I've heard of that deals with that. Especially, in the military, we go through that a lot, right? We have a
Right.
high ratio of that, and usually there's nothing for the people that survive after the fact, right?
Right.
So yeah, I'm sorry that you had to go
So,
through that, man. It's tough, dude. That's tough
yeah.
to hear and think about.
Well, yesterday I was thinking about it, and it's amazing how far you can come over time. When it initially happens, you're like, I'm never going to be able to come over this. I'm never going to be able to get past this. This is always going to be something that affects me negatively. And just like with me and what you and I have discussed before, I had three attempts myself. One in 2011
Yep.
when I tried to drown myself, one in 2015 when I tried to shoot myself, and one in 2019 when I tried to hang myself. And all of these, I mean, obviously happened after she did, and there were thought processes in play of maybe I'm supposed to follow suit. Maybe I'm supposed to follow her lead. You know,
Mm.
I don't want her to be alone, different stuff like that. And we don't know where people go after stuff like this. We have no clue. Um, we can hope, but we don't know how that goes. And with what I was saying is that you never believe that you're going to be able to get past it. And yesterday I was watching a movie, and that had a major play in the movie, and I didn't even think about it until afterwards. And I was like, wow, this movie this topic played a pivotal role in this movie, and it really didn't concern me before. I would watch movies. There 3 months after the tragedy happened, I went back to Bryan, Texas, which is where I'm from, and I was watching a movie with my dad, and it was Superman. It was the latest version of Superman
Yeah.
that came out at that time. And I remember there was a point where the bad guy reached up and pointed a gun in Superman's face and pointed it towards his eye. And I remember just being freaked out, and I had to turn away and couldn't watch it. And it really affected me for months at that time, that had been shown on that movie, and how much that it could affect other people like it affected me. And now here I am. Now, granted, we're talking years later. We're talking, it'll be 19 years in April since she died. So we're talking years and years later. But um, I'm to a point now that it doesn't affect me the way that it used to affect me, you know?
So when you say it like that, right, it doesn't affect you the way it used to affect you.
Right.
Would you agree? Because I've always said this, because I go through my own trauma stuff. That the unfortunate thing that you had to go through and you've went through with your family, your mom, uh, that you turned that pain into purpose, and then you
Right.
became purpose driven with the motivation of how can I be outward with what I can do for those that might suffer with X, Y, and Z.
Right. And that's what the American spirit does, man. That's what the human spirit does. That's how we rebuild. That's how we go on. It's the same thing with what you're doing. You've been through a lot of crap, and you're using it to be able to assist other people. I've been through a lot of crap, and I'm using it to assist other people. And that's just what we do. That's just what you're supposed to do in life. And basically, what we're wanting to do is to rebuild people up enough to where they can tell their story, because I think that's the biggest problem nowadays is that people don't talk about it. It's not
Yeah.
fun, it's not exciting. You don't talk about it at parties.
Right.
People, there's a stigma behind it, and so many people are scared that they're going to say the wrong thing that's going to make somebody do this. And I don't believe that. I don't believe that in me talking about suicide that it's going to make somebody else go that route. I believe that it's going to affect somebody in a way to be like, wow, here's somebody else who not only has been through it and gone through it and has personally attempted to go through it, but is now doing something and bringing light to it on another spectrum. And I think that's exactly what we're supposed to do.
Oh yeah, man. I 100% agree. I think I, I've said it on the channel, right? Pain is a process towards your progress. and to go through the act of completing it, right, and ending your life, at some point, something just turned on and it's just like, I'm done. You get what I mean?
Right.
And
Right.
so you went through those 3 attempts, and so, like, we're 2024 now, so your last attempt was 2019. Over the course of those years, you started you got your nonprofit approved in 2022. So at some point leading up to that point, you probably went through struggles. You probably had your ups and your downs of life, but I think you had a stronger motivation that was like, this is what you're meant to do. This is where you're meant to go, because, like you said, you haven't had anything since 2019, and we all have, thoughts. We all have iterations of perspectives, right? Life is life is perspective at the end of the day.
Right.
It's a perspective of situation and blah blah blah. And the perspective you chose was to let your pain become a purpose for someone else's life. And that's
Right.
a powerful thing, man. And on this channel, that's what we're about, right? Is being outward
Right.
with our pain to help other people grow and other people learn from that. So it's pretty powerful to hear that and hear you talk about it, because you don't really hear people talking about it very often.
Right.
Like you said, nobody talks about it. Nobody. Oh yeah, I tried that. Like, it's not a thing, especially for men. We definitely don't. No,
Right.
that ain't a thing.
Well, a lot of people, some people will look at you as being weak. I'm not weak.
Mm.
I've gone through a lot of junk in my life and have been able to turn it around to um, make better days out of it. And
Yep.
that's the whole point out of it. We in 2012, I published a book called Faith by Fire, and
Yeah.
basically it was the 5 years after the suicide that it basically culminates the whole 5 years afterwards. And it talks about the disintegration of the family. It talks about my alcoholism that went through the roof. It talks about there was an attempt then written in the book. I can't remember. It's been so long since I've read it, but there were things that were written about in the book that hopefully would make people understand what it's like to go through it and understand that it's okay. It's okay to feel this stuff. It's okay to be beaten up and to feel down on life and everything like that. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But um, but there's through the adversity that we go through, there's light at the end of the tunnel. Thank goodness. And with that book, I think I helped some people find some. I'm toying with writing another one, talking about tearing that one apart and kind of piecing it together and adding some more information, because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of stuff has come out since then. The bipolar diagnosis, the alcoholism, and how bad it got, the different things that went through 2 years straight of depression that I went through from 2017 to 2019. I mean, just different things that have happened that have continued the story and continued to, some of it was rough and hard to get through, but a lot of it you just suck up and make good out of it. And that's where we're at today.
Right. So did you have any people around you throughout your journey, 16, 17, 19 years, uh, getting to this point, to finally turning it into purpose? Did you have any strong individuals that were supportive, that helped you to actualize and realize your nonprofit?
I felt alone. Therefore, I mean, I had family at the time back in the day, and
Mm.
there's divorce and stuff like that. But in 2019, I met who I call CP, Natalie CP, Charles Pierre,
Okay.
and she
CP.
is
Chris Paul.
yeah,
Was it Chris Paul?
no, Charles Pierre, and
Yeah.
she is who I met, and basically changed the game. Like I said, I
Okay.
had gone through a 2-year straight depression, and she pulled me out of that. She made me get out of the place that I was at. And she was like, this is gloomy. It's dark. It's not helping with your depression. You need to get out of here and
Right.
move. There was move and just all types of good stuff. And now we're still together and things are going great. But she's probably the most positive out of everybody. There were people who said they were there, but did not garner the support that I hope that I can distill on other people now that I know. You know what I
Right.
mean?
And yeah, well, when you say that, right, like, thinking back, when you think about some of the most darkest times, right, you probably weren't the most easiest person to deal with. And I
Nope.
remember when I was going through my stuff, and I still go through my stuff, right? But going through some of my dark times with the things that I've experienced and seen, I wasn't the most easiest person to deal with. And so it does take a certain person who's gone through that, right? Like I've always said, the reason why we go through dark times is the light, the way
Right.
forward for people behind us, because you have to have some type of um, traumatic experiences to go through to be that beacon of light for people that have never had that, right? Because you might
Right.
be talking to a person who's had everything spoon fed to them, and then someone in their life does that, and then they don't know what to do.
Right.
And you might have to give them that reality of this is what it is. This is some of the things you're going to go through, but I'm going to be here for you because I've gone through it. And that's
Right.
important that the audience needs to understand is your organization is coming from the standpoint of experiential experiences that has put you in the category of I understand and I'm here with you. And most of the time I feel, for me, my personal thing, and you're about to be an LPC so you can confirm, but a lot of the times when we go to counselors, when we go to psychologists, right, it's not even about what they say. It's about them being able to stay during what we're
Right.
talking about, during getting it off your chest, right? Getting those emotions, getting that thing out there. And so, from what you're saying, it sounds like a big part of your organization. It might not even be what you say, it's about how you stay with that
Right.
person throughout that journey. Would that be a fair assessment?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because I think that's an important piece of what we go through, right? We always keep hearing those buzzwords, resiliency and vulnerability and blah blah blah. That's at the end of the day, man. It's about the person that you choose or the person that chooses to be with you throughout the process. It might
Right.
take 2 years, it might take 10 years, it might take 30 years, but there's someone that's there through that process. And for you, is your wife, Natalie. Congratulations to you and her now. Awesome. I'm
Yeah.
happy for you.
Thank you.
That's a great thing to see, man. I'm glad you're doing a lot better, and you're kind of getting into this realm of supporting what needs to be supported.
Right.
Uh,
I
do you
think
have?
it's important to put out there that you don't always have to be there for someone every day of the week, twice on Sunday, all that other type of stuff. Sometimes it's a simple phone call. And I'm
Right.
going to say that, and there's 2 phone calls that I'm going to talk about. First of all, um, when the attempt was happening in my loft and I was trying to hang
Yeah.
myself, I got a
Okay.
phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning. And it was from a friend of mine named Nancy. And I answered the phone and I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you calling me at this late at night? And she's like, hey, I've seen some of your stuff on Facebook. It's really dark and I'm really concerned about you. What's going on? So she literally stopped me from the attempt. I mean, I was in the middle of the attempt and she stopped me. And
It's
so
crazy.
you never know what that one little bitty phone call that you think is just, oh, I'm just going to call and check on this person. You never know what that one phone call does to assist somebody. I'll give you another instance about Oh, what was it, man? About a week after the attempt that you gave me a call?
Oh, yeah, it was within that week. It, it
Yeah.
was it was within that week.
So
And
that
I
whole week, I was questioning God, like, why am I still here? Why am I still alive? Why didn't you just let me go? And I was literally asking these questions in my head. And the phone rang. And I don't think I had your number programmed in my phone at that time. I had gotten a
no,
different
we were years from, you
yeah,
know, from the incident from
yeah.
there.
So um so I got your phone call and I was like, who is this? You're like, hey man, this is Hunt. And I'm like, what? Like Hunt, like from Okinawa Hunt. And you're like, yes. And I remember we talked, and I don't remember because I was so impacted at that time of what was still going on. But just knowing that somebody from years ago had given a damn to give me a call, that was another thing that really played into the stopping the attempts and making me make sure that I was still here days to come.
Honest, honestly, man, I get goosebumps actually when you say it because, I don't talk about that story very often about that part, right? Because I think that part is like a lot of your story, but to break it down for those that are listening, right? Me and you had talked for years after Derek was killed, and I don't know what was going on in my mind at the time, but something was just like, I think I saw your Facebook, reached out, got your number, and then I had called you. And the timing of when I had called you was right around the time that you had, you're about to try and do the thing, right? Put the rope around and just and that whole conversation was aligning your perspective of life, my perspective of life through this unfortunate situation with Derek and realizing that we were both hurt and that we hadn't talked
Right.
to each other for we never talked about it. We never like
Right.
after Derek, we never really had that, a how are you doing with all of this? We need to talk. We never had that.
Right.
And I brought stuff to your attention that you didn't think about or see, and you brought stuff to mine that I didn't understand. And the thing I didn't understand, um, sitting here knowing your organization and what you're doing right now, was that we never truly understand what people are going through until we decide to jump into their life.
Right.
Be present, be authentic, be there with them, and just go through the journey. And that's kind of, it was a huge catalyst. That right there was one of the big catalysts of how I even got to this point. That's a whole nother video too, but got to this point of this channel, because a lot of people might think this channel is like doom and gloom, but it's really not. It's really more about, it's a triumphant victory for those that join and understand, what we're here to do, which is to be there. That's what your
Right.
organization is about, is to be there for the people that still have to continue living, that still have a chance to turn that pain into purpose. And
Right.
so, yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. But those two phone calls I remember were huge.
Mhm.
And then um, that was April 17th, and then May 9th is when I actually met Natalie. And it was simple. It was
Oh,
as
wow.
simple as me just trying to go on with life. I
Mhm.
had been on Match.com like
Mhm.
a few times months before, but never really got into it, never really met a lot. Just like I said, the depression was still so bad that I just wasn't on there a lot. And that day I decided to look at it, and sure enough, there was this face, man. And that's all I can say. This beautiful face that was
Yeah.
there, and it was just like, and it helped. And I don't say this as a joke, but it helped that she had already liked my profile. So I was like, okay, this is somebody who has read my profile and
Right.
actually might care. a little bit. It's not like
Mhm.
I'm trying to follow somebody like a puppy dog or that type of stuff.
Right.
It's she had already liked my page, and so that meant a lot to me as well. And we contacted one another, and like I said, it's been 5.5 years now. So you're
So
counting it down.
5.5 years,
Yeah.
and I think you're gonna have to do your own little episode about Natalie. You know what I
Okay.
mean? 'Cause she seems to have had a huge impact in your life, man, and that's awesome.
She has, man, but she's gone through a lot with it.
Mhm.
Like, obviously there's been dark days from the mom's passing that I still deal with every once in a while. Um, I'll no, I'm going to leave that one alone. No, I'm going to give an example. Okay, Mother's Day last year.
Mm.
Okay, you're always supposed to be um, concerned with and wanting to spend time with the loved one that you had that's a mother and all that other type of stuff. And I was still so in a dark place at that for some reason at that time I was in a dark place about mom and everything. And I completely pushed her importance off to the side
Yeah, 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 okay.
and pushed her off to the side. Man, we can't do that. We can't ignore the ones that we love just because somebody in the past no longer wanted to be around us.
Yeah.
And um we can't just push them aside and think that their time is not important. And basically all it was I said, well, it's going to be too busy to go to restaurants. I don't want to do that, and we'll just go home. Well, okay, hold on. This ain't your day. This ain't about you. It's not Nelson's day. It's Natalie's day. It's mom's day. It's what do they want? What does she want? What does her mother want? What do they want to go do? And I was letting um, the past dictate how I responded to the future. And
Yeah.
quite frankly, it was bullshit, man. It was
Well,
bullshit, and that's
well,
something that I've learned throughout the years as well. But she's been through
yeah.
quite a bit with everything that's gone on.
Right, and it's funny that you say that, 'cause man, I've been saying this for a while, right? Um, I tell my counselors this, like, I mean, I don't currently have a counselor, but I'm going back to the counselor because they tried to boot me out of the military
Right,
recently. But living in your past does not allow you to be present, and you can never plan for your future.
right,
That plain and simple, right? And when we think about trauma, no matter what trauma it is, we're always living in the past of that trauma, which will never allow us to be present at the moment for the people that are there, right? That we're connected to at the moment. And so it's funny that you say that exact word. Hey, when you become an LPC, man, you might have to, like, I don't know, maybe trademark some of the stuff we talk about. And, you can make it your own, whatever. But if you get paid, I just want some money. You know what I mean? I need some money, man. I'm in bankruptcy. I've got a lot of stuff, man. I tell my girl right now, I was like, I need a midget stenographer. You know what I mean? To, like, write down some of the stuff I'd be saying. But it's funny though that you say it, because you're literally saying the same thing that I'm saying, right? It's because we are so stuck in the past, we can't be present. We can never plan for the future. But
right,
when you're living in the present, you recognize the past, and then you're working towards your future, but you're still
right,
living in the present. And that's where we want to be in life. And I think that's what your organization wants to do for those that have lost their family members, is just help them bring back being present.
right,
Yeah, and that's man, you have a journey that not a lot of people talk about, especially from the community of people that watch this channel, right? It's a lot of military, because we have, you remember Carlos Hernandez?
yes.
You
Carlos
know,
Hernandez,
uh,
yes, I remember
he,
that.
he did it at
Yeah,
Ramstein. So, and there's a lot of people that knew him, and he had a smile on his face every day. You know what I mean? You would have never known. Nobody would have ever known that he was
Right.
going through whatever he was going through. But at the same time, there's a lot of people that after the fact that I know of, that include myself, that were just like, damn, how did I miss it? You know what I mean? Like, how did I shoulda, woulda, coulda, and then living in that moment, right? And so there's so many people that you could touch with your organization, which kind of leads into that next point, right? Do you or are you considering uh, a target audience for your organization, like military members, veterans, because we do have a high suicide rate? I'm not saying you're isolating just for that, but is that something that you're really kind of going towards and letting that grow from there?
I thank you for asking that. I've thought about that a lot, and I don't think that I want to limit anything to
Mm,
a population, but at the same time, obviously, there's a huge love that I have for the military. So
right.
if I was to ever be invited in to start doing programs and speaking and talking to people and that type of stuff, I would absolutely do that in a heartbeat. I don't know exactly where I'm going to go with the LPC thing, but eventually I would like to work at a VA hospital,
Okay.
working
Well,
with PTSD patients and stuff like that.
you've been out for a while, but we have a program in the DoD Air Force fire. It's called the Ready Firefighter Program. I'm gonna send it to you, so you can
Okay.
see what I'm talking about. It's more along the lines of peer support team and building that team and community. But I think there's some things that you can take out of there, yeah, I think you might see some opportunities that are available for the community. And I know you're open to anybody and everybody. Um, but in our military community, we're so much tighter than the
Right.
rest of society, that when one person does it, there's a greater impact on many different families from around the world,
Right.
in such our small community. So like um I think it would be something that fits right up your background, man. So
Well,
don't forget to remind me.
one reason, and I really wanted to talk about this part, and I forgot to write it down, but um, one thing that I always talk about is Chris Cornell and Chester Bennington. Do those names ring a bell?
Mm-mm.
Okay, Chris Cornell was the lead singer of Soundgarden.
Okay.
Chester Bennington was the lead singer for Linkin Park.
Okay, I've heard of Lincoln Park. Yeah.
Okay. So basically what happened is that Chris Cornell, and I don't know the dates. I don't, I've got them written down somewhere, but I don't know the dates off the top of my head, where Chris Cornell died by suicide. And 2 months later, his best friend, Chester Bennington, and he were like best friends, very, very close. And they said that Chester Bennington went into an extremely dark place, wouldn't come out, wouldn't talk to anybody for 2 months. And then finally, after those 2 months, he died by suicide as well. So that is a story that I tell and talk about because it's so important. We forget, we're so worried about the loss that has happened that we forget to take care of those that are left behind.
Right.
And that's what SAS is about. We've got to take care of those that have been left behind by this type of tragedy. And in this situation, nobody paid any attention to Chester. They just let him be and that type of stuff. And then eventually he followed suit and did the same thing. And that's what we have to watch out for. And that's one of the biggest reasons that SAS was created and is functional because of stories like that. So that's one of the major things that I bring to the table, and like,
Mhm.
hey, this is what has happened. This is what we need to think about. This is what we need to discuss because I can almost guarantee you, I would say at least 75% of people who have lost somebody to suicide thinks about suicide. They may
Yep.
not have intentions, but they have ideology of
Why is that?
of because it's what they know. It's from their loved ones and that type of stuff. If the loved one died this way, am I supposed to follow suit? Am I supposed to do the same thing?
Mm.
And so that's a lot of the mind frame that comes with that.
I think it's also, I'm gonna go out on a limb on this, man. But you kind of already said it earlier in the beginning. You said you always had that thought. So I have a friend of mine. I've had a couple friends of mine actually that uh, one that committed it, and then one that hasn't. Right. So they talked about having the thoughts,
Right,
like they've always had the thoughts of not necessarily. They didn't even know when they were younger that it was suicide. They just said they've always had the thoughts. And I
right,
think part of that problem or part of that thing is, there's a spiritual warfare that's going on in the soul as well. And that's in this attack against people and humans, you know what I mean? But, like I said, that's why I say I'm going out on a limb and saying that. But I also believe in higher power, I believe in God, I believe in Jesus, you know what I mean?
right,
And so there is a side of this that is definitely never discussed about. And that's a big part of it from my personal opinion, that you know it's always been around them. It's always been here. It
right,
just became an action later as life started compiling and compounding on them and things happening.
right.
So
And that was the way that it was with me. Like I said, ever since about the age of 15, I started having these thoughts. And I thought of suicide almost daily, if not daily. And
since
like
you
I
were
said, I
17, you
had
said
what's that?
you said since you were 17,
Since about 15.
15, man. Okay,
Yeah.
that's
Well,
great.
they've traced we talked about the bipolar disorder. They traced the bipolar disorder back to about 15. And so back then is when I started having thoughts and feelings and ideas of things that I probably shouldn't have thought about. And the suicide ideations is the biggest part of that.
Mm.
And so over time, it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And then mom did what she did. And then other things happened and Derek happened and stuff like that. And then it was,
Yeah, you're like go time. You're just like,
yeah,
hey, I'm doing this, and
right,
then I think God intervened into your life 3 times.
right,
God used people, and then finally, you had that last wake up call where it's like, "Psh, man, I need to leverage this. I need to put this into action, right, into a positive way, and this is how you
right,
got to what you're doing. Um, it's pretty crazy, talking to someone who's kind of gone through the wickets of that, from the beginning, the middle, the end, the roller coaster, right? Of
right,
even after the fact, right? Even though you haven't tried it in 2019, I'm sure there's been some struggles throughout that process. Um,
right,
but here you are, man. I'm proud to be able to, bring you on the channel and introduce your organization because I stand behind that, man. I 100% believe that, you know, we need to have more people like you in this world. And unfortunately, the best people for that are people that have gone through it.
right.
I don't know if you talk to counselors that have no experience. In the fire department, we say SISM. I know you know that critical incident stress management. Don't know shit about what
Yeah.
we do and how we do it in the job, right?
We
Yeah.
it's funny that you say that, and this is another point that I'm actually going to use for my speaking engagements. Is I was getting ready to deploy, and I can't remember where I was deploying at the time, but this lady from medical came in and she said, well, I'm going to be giving you your briefing on deployment, on this part of deployment and self-help and blah, 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 all this other type of stuff. And immediately the first thing she said is, well, I've never deployed. And I looked across at everybody that was there, and it's like it immediately turned them off.
Yeah.
Like the switch had been clicked. And I think I had headphones in and was actually listening to my headphones, not even paying any attention to it because it was just so stupid to me to have somebody get up there and say, I've never deployed, but I'm teaching you about deployment stuff.
bro.
It
So
was ridiculous.
it's oh man, dude. I'm adding to what what we're talking about, right? So for example, you just said, her job, right? Her purpose is to prepare you for deployment, but she has no perspective of
Right,
her purpose. And
right,
so that is one of the biggest things I've recently come to understanding, is that you have to understand your purpose to line it up with your perspective, because your perspective affects your purpose. You can have the
right,
wrong perspective going towards your purpose and never get there. But if you have the right perspective, then you can start aligning with your true purpose, and then the doors and opportunities of what we're here to do. Because I believe that every person is here to be um, some type of conduit for another person. Like, I'm not
right,
here for myself. I'm here because I've got people that I love, I'm connected to,
right.
right? And I bring something to their life and they bring something to mine. And so, my girlfriend, man, she's been a huge part of my journey and growth, and she supports me through all this stuff. That's all the crazy stuff that I do and say, but um, that's a big purpose, right? Aligning the perspective with your purpose. Otherwise, if you're disconnected with it, then people see it. They won't take you seriously. And so that's something that you have that not a lot of people I talk to about this stuff, is that you have the perspective aligned with your purpose to fulfill what it is that you're here to do, man. And this is something that you're here to do, man. And it's awesome to watch this grow and see
Right.
it. I'm interested to see where it goes, and so, like, do you have anything for people that have thought about it, people that um are struggling with these thoughts? Like, if there was one line, one quote you can give them, what would it be?
You always hear people say one day at a time. I don't believe that shit. I don't believe in that at all. I believe 1 minute at a time. If you can make it 60 seconds at a time, if you can
Okay.
make it 1 minute at a time, then you're going to make it and you'll get there. And just there was a time in my life that's literally how I lived, 1 minute at a time. Breathe, focus, get through it. You'll be fine. Attach yourself to people. Now,
The
notice
right
I said
people.
attach yourself to people, the right people.
Yeah, I was just saying
Attach
the right
yourself to
people.
the right
Yeah.
people. Now,
Yeah.
now here's the deal. What happens if you attach yourself to somebody and you find out they're the wrong person? Well, then find your ways to vacate from that situation and leave from that situation. But find the people that are going to help you and help build you up. But see, you even said something else just a second ago that's very important to me. It's not about what somebody else can bring to me, it's about what I can bring to somebody else. In the same stance, we always help one another. Natalie, I can't talk big enough or openly enough about Natalie and what she's done for me and built for me. But there's also a lot of things that I've done and can do and have done for her that have helped her along the way. It's not just a one give show. It's both of us help and assist one another out. Now, other than her parents and a few friends, we don't have a whole lot of other people that we hang out with, man.
But that's good. But that's
It's
good,
it's pretty
man.
much it's pretty much what I've heard people what am I trying to say as ride or die. She's my ride or die. I'm her ride or die.
Mhm.
We back one another up the way that we're supposed to.
You know what I call
And
that?
what's that?
You know what I call that?
What's that?
A relationship of reciprocity.
A relationship of reciprocity. I've
Bro,
never heard
quote
that.
this. Quote me, homie. But the whole yin and yang, man. You're describing a relationship of reciprocity. You're pouring into her, and she is in turn pouring into you, and you both are fulfilling your relationship together. You get what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And that's what you're describing. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
No, you're good. You're good.
But
You're
yeah,
good.
because that's something I talk to my girl about all the time. Like, look, I'm looking for someone that wants to reciprocate. Because our whole job is to be outward with our energy.
Right.
That's what it is. You know what I mean? We don't like people because their outward energy is negative. I don't want to be around you.
Right.
You bring too much negativity, blah, 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 blah. We've all been through that. I've had my time period, you've had your time period, boom. Once you started understanding the only thing that we really control in life is our output, the perspective of life starts to change.
Right.
It really does. It has to. Because when you can think about it, like, dang, maybe I'm kind of like coming off a little wrong. Maybe I'm saying something a little that's pissing people off. You get what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
you start changing your approach and how you talk to people and deal with people, man. So yeah. Sorry, my bad.
No, you're
You,
good.
you have me thinking, man. I'm thinking with little people and you know stenographers and getting it all together. I might get canceled talking about that stuff, dog. But for those that know, they know. You know what I mean? And one day I'll tell you
Okay.
the story. I can't tell you on camera. It's
Okay.
but no, man, it's been a blessing to have you on the channel as much as you've had, to see you kind of going through what you've gone through and start to open up, because I was trying to encourage you to be like, hey man, let's talk about your nonprofit. Let's talk about where you're at and what the whole goal is, because getting the word out there is half the thing. Do you have an Instagram account or something? I don't
Yes.
have Instagram.
It's on the card. It's on
Okay,
that
yeah.
card that's up
Yeah.
there
Hey,
at the
you got to
top.
put your
Yeah.
finger up there. You got to put your finger up there.
Man, I can't do that.
Hey, come on. It's the other finger. There you go. Up. Yep. There you go.
There
Right
you go.
up in that corner somewhere. Right. Let
Yes.
me open that. But yeah, you do have an Instagram handle. Yeah. I don't know what it is. What is your Instagram handle?
Sure.
Just what is it called?
Um, Instagram is at survivors underscore against underscore suicide.
Okay. At survivors underscore at survivors. What was it?
At survivors underscore against underscore suicide.
Okay. At survivors underscore.
I'm not on Facebook anymore. Facebook got to be too much of a
Yeah.
hindrance.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No,
we're
I
not
get
on
you.
Facebook anymore. But
Well, people can reach out to you through the email. They
yeah.
also have the website at the bottom of the ticker, your Instagram handle. Um,
On the website, we have a um, yeah, what am I trying to say? Blog
okay,
on the
blog. Yep.
website. So a lot of what we've talked about today, a lot of it is kind of on there as well. And it kind of goes through and talks about certain things. It talks about, like, for instance, I had one on there that I did of Matthew Perry that just died or died a year ago. And
Oh,
I
okay.
talked
The
about,
actor. I'm talking about the actor.
yeah, the actor.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, from Friends. And I talked about the way that affected me and different stuff like that, because it's the small things that affect us in the weirdest of ways. And so I had that on there. I talked. I think I've put an excerpt of the book on there and different stuff like that. So there's talked about Kanye. Talked
Kanye.
about Kanye. Yeah, well, Kanye with having bipolar disorder.
Oh, well, I just kind of attributed that to some of the Illuminati and Freemasonry stuff he was into. You know what I mean? But
Yeah, he's got bipolar disorder.
oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
But that would kind of make sense, right? But I mean,
right.
all those things has an impact. So there's a few ways that people can reach out to you and get to your email, the website, find you on Instagram. Um, is there any other way that, like, I don't know, I can try and help you and your purpose and your channel? I mean, right
Yes.
now, I don't got that many subscribers, bro. I'm at the
Yeah,
bottom of the barrel.
that's okay. Every single one of them, if they're a believer, prayer. That's the biggest thing that we need is prayer. to get us to the next
Amen to
stage,
that.
get us to the next foundation, to get us to whatever we're supposed to be doing. We need prayer above everything else. I've had people say before, hey, where can we donate? And I was like, we're not taking donations at this time, but we're taking prayers. That's what we
Okay.
need more
Yeah.
than anything
Yeah. That's
else.
the biggest donation anybody can give to another person.
Yep.
You know, and it's crazy that you bring this up. It's November 3rd. You know, you got the American flag in the background and you're in Texas. Now, I ain't going to get into that, bro. I do want to, though.
No,
But we ain't gonna do that, dog. You know, I mean, piss people off, man. I ain't trying to make this political, but I think I think life is fun. I think, you know, we got to somehow figure out a way to be fun with it, man. So that's kind
right.
of what I'm trying to also do in my life and channel. So, but if you got nothing else, brother, man, this was an awesome conversation. We're gonna dive more into that. I think maybe, you know, is your girl Natalie? Is she talking about maybe, you know, y'all doing a duo?
I don't know. I haven't talked to her about it. She
Okay.
might be interested.
Yeah,
I'll have to.
she would
I'll
love
have
to
to.
hear you just tell her how awesome she is, I'm sure.
Well, she's on the couch. She's heard everything that we've been saying.
Okay. Does she like the channel, by the way?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. That's cool. I appreciate your time and her time, man. And
Oh yeah.
you know, it's been a blessing. But if you ain't got nothing else, brother, I'm here.
All right.
Nothing
No,
else,
I'm
then
good.
yeah. Okay. Well, again, thank you to the guest, Nelson Thomas. Check out his page, survivorsagainstsuicide.org. He's got an email at the bottom with the ticker right there. He also has an Instagram handle, which was very complicated when I said it, but it's at underscore survivors underscore against suicide.
No, no,
So, oh,
no.
see, I
You
said it
got it
wrong
wrong.
already. Well, I'm gonna let
At
you say it.
at survivors underscore against underscore suicide.
There we go. At survivors underscore against underscore suicide. Boom. Got it. I
There
got
you
you,
go.
brother. But yeah, check him out. You know, if you want to reach out to me too, I can connect you with him as well. Like and subscribe to the channel. Appreciate the time. Mahalo shoots. Life is good. You know, keep on the up and up and keep pouring out good positive vibes to people. Again, thank you, Nelson, for your time, man. It's
No
awesome. I
problem.
love talking with you and looking forward to the next time we do this.
Oh yeah.
Cool. Sweet, brother.